My name is Zach Grotsky.
And how old are you?
I am 26 years old.
How long have you been a follower of Christ?
I've been a follower of Christ for 9 years.
Did you grow up in the church?
I did grow up in the church. I grew up Catholic. My parents, actually my dad in college, he almost became a priest, and all of his college buddies called him a Catholic. Just grew up loving the Lord, and they were devout Catholics too. Like they never missed mass. It doesn't matter what was going on, if you had sports or anything, we're going to church. We prayed after every meal, prayed every night. So really grew up knowing the routine of things, but never really knowing God.
So who is God and Jesus to you?
Jesus is my King, my Lord, my Savior, and the lover of my soul.
Have you always believed in God? Like, I know you were brought up in Catholicism, but what was your thought there?
Yeah, I did. I didn't, I would say I did, but I didn't, in the sense of I believed in a God, but it wasn't the God of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I believed in like a distant God. It wasn't the God that I have a relationship with today.
With a lot of religions out there, why do you believe in the God of the Bible?
2 reasons. The first one is because it's logical. Jesus is the only person that started a religion, or that, birthed a movement or religion, who claimed to be God.
Mm-hmm.
Every other person in a religion either claimed to have revelation from God or an insight into God.
Mm-hmm.
Christ is the only one who said, no, I am God,
Mm-hmm.
which makes him either one of 3 things. He's either a liar, which makes him inherently evil, knowing he's not God, but claiming to be God and leading people astray. He's a lunatic, he's crazy, and truly believes he's God, but he's not God. Or he is the Lord. Liar, lunatic, or Lord. You can't be anything else. If you look at somebody who is a liar, they're typically narcissistic. And there's all these personality traits that come from somebody who fits that bill. And if we look at the life of Christ, he's the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, with lunatics, people who are out of touch with reality, people tend to move away from them. Like, they don't draw a crowd. You can tell, if I was like, I'm a butterfly, and I really believed I was a butterfly, no one's going to be like following me, or I'm not going to draw a crowd. It tends to repel people. With Christ, the opposite. He had a massive following, and people were entranced by him, by his words, by his life, by his ministry. And he proved that he was God with his miracles, and he backed it up. And so, logically, he is the Lord. One of my favorite verses is, taste and see that the Lord is good. And that's something that I've experienced. It's not just a head knowledge thing, but it's an experiential encounter by knowing Jesus, by encountering him, by feeling his presence, by being actively loved by him.
So do you have any stories you'd like to share that made you secure in the existence of God?
Yeah, it's funny because I wasn't following God, but I knew God was real. And when we kind of get into my testimony, I can get more into this, but I was living very recklessly. And God always protected me from a bunch of different things, whether that's car accidents, whether that's drug overdoses. In high school, right before I got saved, I had this thought that I was invincible. Because I would do all these stupid things and nothing would stick. There would be no negative ramifications that were life altering. And in retrospect, now looking back after I was saved, the Lord took me through a couple times and was like, yeah, I saved your life here. I was driving one night and it comes to a dead end, basically a T intersection, and I was driving really fast, and I basically didn't realize the T intersection came up so close, so I slammed on the brakes and my car just skidded and perfectly went straight in the T intersection.
Wow.
And miraculously. And I remember driving later and the Lord brought that memory to me and be like, if I didn't save you there, you would be in hell right now.
Wow.
And I was just I still get goosebumps. Things like that, where there was one time where I was taking drugs and I took 6 Percocets at my friend's house. And I remember a voice in my head said, if you don't throw these up right now, you will not live till the morning. And I remember crawling to the toilet and making myself throw up. And it all came up, but how messed up I was in the morning, I know without a doubt I would be dead. And so just different stories like that, and in the moment, it didn't really hit me. I was just yeah, I'm invincible, oh yeah, whatever. But in retrospect, God was like, look what I did here. Look what I did here. Look what I did here.
So what is your relationship like with God right now?
Good question. My relationship is encapsulated by a couple words. One, I'm always being pruned. He's always refining me, making me more holy. I feel like my relationship with Christ was entered into, and I want it to be marked by adoration of just beholding him. And that's when I'm truly alive. That's when I feel like my life is truly glorifying God, is when I'm just looking at him and just having my heart captivated over and over and over again, seeing his beauty. And that's how I'm transformed. That's how I'm refined. I think also the Lord is very patient with me, because there's definitely times where I'm stubborn and stiff-necked and like, I don't want to work on that, God, or and so it's him constantly proving his faithfulness even despite my faithlessness, which is ashamed to say, but it's true. It's a true aspect of my life.
What is your story?
I grew up in a Catholic family. I'm the oldest of 8 kids. I have an amazing family. Very close. My parents love Jesus. We go to Mass every Sunday. We were just devout Catholics. But I didn't know God. I knew about him. I went to Catholic elementary school and even Catholic high school, and so I knew the stories. I remember being told all these different things, but I describe it as my relationship with God is how you read about somebody in an autobiography. You know about that person, you know what they've done and stuff like that, but you don't know that person. I've never talked with Abraham Lincoln, but I know about his life. I was just a happy kid, more goody two-shoes, a rule follower, until 6th grade. And I remember in 6th grade, my friend was like, hey, smoke this weed with me. And I did. I wanted to look cool. I didn't want to disappoint, whatever, but I did. And I remember that was a pivotal moment in my life, because I was never really educated on that stuff, but I remember thinking in my childlike brain was like, oh, if you do drugs once, you just die on the spot. like you just die. And I remember like doing it and being like, wow, that was fun. And so then I started questioning all the other things that my parents had taught me or had said not to do, and I was like, well, that was fun. Let me try drinking. Like, oh, that was fun. Let me try. And I started to like sow this unholy distrust of authority and distrust of my parents and my background and how I was raised. Move on to 8th grade. I'm drug dealing, just weed, drinking a lot, and living just from high to high. But also this void in me starts getting deeper and deeper. I get this depression that rolls in and sets in. And I'm now not just doing things recreationally, but searching for something to fill this God-sized hole in my heart. The depression started in around 7th grade, but by 8th grade it was pretty rampant, and it was what I was running from. So then comes freshman year of high school, and weed isn't the only thing I'm doing now. I'm doing pills, whatever. Whatever I could get my hands on. And I was pretty smart about it. I was like, I never want to get addicted to something, so I would do one drug and then do a different drug and then do a different, I wasn't addicted to any substance, but I was addicted to escaping. I have popularity, I have all these things that the world tells me, oh, this will fill that God-sized hole. I'm gonna try this, Whether that's popularity, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whether it's pleasure, I was just throwing whatever I could at that God-sized hole. And it would feel good for a couple hours, and then that hole would get bigger, and I would just feel more empty. And this comes to like a crescendo. So that's that period of time where I'm living really reckless. I remember going to class on acid. And the thing was too, that I could maintain good grades. And I was really good at putting up a front. I knew how to be polite around authority figures. I knew how to look good optically to my friends' parents and to my teachers and everything. I was in honors and AP classes. So I could maintain the looks. I'm living recklessly. I'm having all these experiences. I'm thinking I'm invincible because God is rescuing me from, I know God is rescuing me from car crashes and drug overdoses and this and that. Just bad decisions galore. Junior year, I was in AP English class, and I just got this new drug called Bizarro. And what it was vape juice that had K2 in it. And they would sell these at the store. Kids would get them. A lot of kids would die. They would take them back, change 1 or 2 chemicals in it, and rebrand it as something else. What I would do is I would do 1 drop, and I would snort it. And this drug was out of every drug I've done, was the strongest. The trip would last for about 45 minutes. There's 3 other lunch periods that I was just in class. I'd already done my presentations. I'm like, this is perfect. I got an hour and a half. I'm gonna sit back, I'm just gonna trip, and I'm gonna watch everybody do their presentation, and I sat in the back of the class, the last row, and I was just like, I'm gonna just zone on out and be super high. And I remember going to do one drop, and I squeeze it, and half the bottle goes down my throat. What do you do? Like, you've just taken a extreme copious amount of drugs. There's no way to get it out of your system, and you're in class, and you have to act normal. And I just remember sitting there like, okay, I guess this is where I'm at right now. The high that ensued, I to this day can't really describe it. I just remember nothing was making sense to me. Like, I remember trying to ask my friend something, and I remember vividly him turning around and being like, what is wrong with you? I need to get to the bathroom. So apparently, in my mind, I stood up, can I go to the bathroom, walked to the door. Not what really happened. I apparently tripped over, stared at the doorknob for a minute, opened it, went to the bathroom, threw up, and collapsed. And knocking on my stall is the principal. And so I'm trying to muster up the story of, I just had some bad pudding, la la la, and clearly I'm tripping. And so they take me down to the nurse's office. She looks at me after she took my heartbeat and was like, what are you on? And I was like, nothing. She's like, your heart is going 3 times the pace of what it should be. The ambulance is on its way. You're close to death right now. What are you on? It's kind of blurry, but I just remember being in the ambulance, wake up, come to consciousness with my parents, the dean of students, and a police officer at the foot of my bed. And at that moment, the mask that I had tried for so long to keep up of I'm okay came to the ground, shattered, and everyone knew how messed up I was. Everyone knew how depressed I was. Everyone knew how, addicted to escapism I was. Got kicked out of St. John's. In that head, I was leaving, and my friend's like, okay, what are you gonna do now? And I was kind of jokingly, kind of not, I'll probably just kill myself. But I had to go see people after that, because they're like, you're on suicide watch right now. I'm kicked out of the private school, now I'm back in public school, and I'm doing all the same things. I'm still dealing, I'm still getting high, but I'm putting up that facade of I'm okay. I'm still very good at putting that facade up of I know what I need to do optically to look like I'm all better. I was so convinced on convincing my therapist to get me medical marijuana. That was my new thing. So I was like, man, if I could just get it medically for my depression, then my dad can't say anything about me smoking, and my life will be so much better. I don't have to pay for it, yada yada yada. And I remember very much knowing what to say to this lady of yeah, I got you tricked. At Leominster High, they didn't have the same honor per se as they did at St. John's. At St. John's, you could leave your locker unlocked and you won't get robbed. Leominster High, I got robbed multiple times. And so it just made me tougher, and it made me more aggressive, and it made me more just going deeper and deeper into that sin. I started stealing from stores, just really plunging into that darkness. And doing everything I could still to be cool and popular and relevant. I amassed some friends from one dealing, but also because I didn't care about my life anymore. So I would do things that scared everybody else, and I thought that was cool. Driving down the street at 80 miles an hour. There was this one tree that we would always go swimming, and you'd jump off into the lake, and there was one branch that was super high, and no one would do it. I climbed up, did it the first time, and because I didn't care if I died. And so people thought I was cool for that. That summer comes around, and my parents leave for Florida, leave me home because I'm working, and I proceed to throw a party every night. Bigger party. But at one of those parties, I meet this girl, and we kind of hit it off, whatever. I start talking with her, and her parents are Christians. And different than what I've seen before. They talk about God like they know him. God told me this. I'm like, no, he's just up there doing whatever, he doesn't talk to you, he doesn't counter you. They were spirit-filled. They would talk about this miracle, we saw this healing, and I was like, wait a minute, what? God intersects with human life, now? Wow. And so that was piquing my interest, and that was when God started stirring this hunger. I had the void, but he was stirring the hunger for what will fill the void. This insatiable hunger that he started behind the scenes, and I never really realized it, but God started moving up slowly in my heart. Me and this girl were not living a godly lifestyle whatsoever, but I remember there were certain things I was like, okay, I'm going to give up cocaine for you. Like, I'm going to give up this for you. But it was always for that girl. Like, oh, I'm going to give this up for you. We were still drinking, we were still smoking weed, but I gave up a lot of other substances for her. I would sit in her parents' Bible studies and hear them talk about stuff, and I was like, oh, this Jesus thing's pretty cool. You know? I wasn't convicted of what I was doing, but he was stirring that hunger. Like, I love rap music, but, like, I started listening to Christian rap music. And it just felt like Jesus was infiltrating my heart, and I didn't realize it. But I was just like, oh, this Jesus thing's pretty cool. And that came to a head when this girl was basically my idol. It got to the point where it was her, God, everything else. So God was second place, pretty good, right? But he wasn't the king of my life, the Lord of my life. And I wasn't changing anything about myself for him. I was just like, oh, yeah, he's a cool guy. I put all my faith in curing my depression on this female that I was in a relationship with, of like, if we ever break up, I'm ending my life. That was my thought. And I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to do so much cocaine, my heart stops. I gave up cocaine for you. Like, that's how I'm going to end it. We do break up in a very, very rough way. In a way that should have crushed me. The little bit of pride I had left should have been decimated. I just remember driving, tears rolling down my face, picking up my phone to call my drug dealer. And instead I opened my Bible app. And the presence of God came in that car. And Jesus was there right next to me. And for the first time in my life, that God-sized hole in my heart was full. And I just knew this is what life is about. This is what I've been chasing the whole time. I tasted and seen that the Lord was good. I remember him sitting next to me and him saying, if you stick close to me, you will never be depressed again. And just, it's just gone. Like, that depression just gone. And just realizing that, no, that hole was just me hungering for him and throwing other things in that. And for the first time, I loved myself. I could look at myself and not as a scumbag or piece of crap or all these things that I would call myself on the regular. I remember waking up and saying a prayer to God before I met Jesus, saying a prayer that I would die that day to make the world a better place. And I met him, I encountered him. I was filled by him. And yeah, the presence of God tangibly was in the car. And I tasted and saw that the Lord was good. And he said, Zach, you stick by me. You'll never be depressed again. And the curtain was ripped back. And that hunger that had been stirring for so long came to fruition. And the lights came on. And I said, oh, this is what life is. This is why we're all alive. That moment, my life was changed forever. I didn't even say a prayer or anything. My heart said, yes, I want more of this. I want more of you. And you fall in love with something, you can't help but talk about it. I actually got accepted back into St. John's for my senior year. So this happened over the summer. And for senior year, I remember skipping every lunch, sitting in my car and just reading my Bible. Just reading my Bible. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. I remember having my Bible on, the audio Bible, and just like, and I would talk to somebody and somehow the conversation would veer to Jesus. And I saw him start doing things in other people's lives, like my friends' lives, and touching them in the same way that he touched me. And it was effortless because I was just in love with him. I didn't feel like I had to go tell people. It just came out. It came out. I was full. I was alive. And to this day, his words have rang true. I have not struggled with depression, anxiety. And anytime I feel it start to creep in, I know that, oh man, I've been not reading my Bible in a while. Like, I am walking away from him right now. Let me run back to him. That was the moment where my life changed. And it's been a journey ever since. He supernaturally removed some things, and then there's still things that you have to walk out and you have to be refined out of. And I remember he started placing people around me who were just as hungry as I was, because I was just like, I need more of this. It's to the point where it's probably annoying to a lot of people, because I was just like, I just need, all my conversations were about God, all my thoughts were about him. I just, feed me more. And he put a couple of key men in my life who were just as hungry as I was, and we started running together. One is my dear friend Zoltan. I remember him from LHS, and we never actually had a conversation. We would just make like goofy faces at each other, and like I didn't even know his name. And one day I saw him on Instagram, and it said Christian. Like, he was a Christian. So like I reached out to him. I was like, oh my gosh, you're a Christian? So that whole summer we just like would hang out all the time and just run after Jesus. And we saw miracle after miracle. And then I went to college, and I thought I was going to be the solo dolo Christian. I remember the first day I was with some friends, and they were smoking weed, and I was like, man, my God can get you higher than that joint can, bro. Like, I promise you, like, this is better. But it's funny how the Lord sent them out 2 by 2. Because me being a solo dolo Christian, by that end of that first semester, I was already like fading away. It's starting to fall back into my old patterns. And I remember just going, being like, man, I feel that death creeping in. I feel that depression creeping in, Lord. Like, I know that I'm doing things that are like pushing you away. And he said to me, Zach, there's a reason why I sent them out 2 by 2. You need community. And so that was like the first major lesson of the importance of the church, the importance of community, the importance of running with believers who can call you back to your identity in Christ when you're messing up, and when you're racked with shame or guilt. They can point out your identity, but also they can look into your life and see that transparency and be like, hey man, like, this is not honoring God. Just the beauty of that, the joy that is of that. And so I got connected with Campus Ambassadors, which was the Christian club on campus. Through that, I actually met my wife. I met a lot of good friends.
Do you have a word of advice for someone who is currently in the same position that you were in?
I would say, try it out. Be like, God, if you're real, show me. And don't ask that unless you're actually going to look. But if you're truly seeking, and you truly want what I just talked about, be like, Jesus, show yourself to me. Because God is always seeking you more than you're seeking him. I used to think the old God that I believed in, I thought that I had to make myself holy to come to him and be acceptable. And that is one of the biggest lies of the enemy out there today. Of like, oh, I can't step into a church, I'll combust into flames. That is garbage. That is garbage, you know? Christ says he comes for those who are sick, you know? Like, those who are sick need a physician. And so that's the best spot for sinners, is a church. Are you kidding me? Like, the more messed up you are, go to church and get redeemed, to get healed, to get set free. Like, come on. This is the spot to heal you from the junk. So, that being said, just don't feel like, one, you're too messed up. But God is always seeking you more than you're seeking him. I used to say this thing of, if you take a step towards Christ, he's already walking towards you. If you start walking towards him, he's already running towards you. If you start running towards him, you're already in his arms. And, like, I don't know how accurate that actually is, but the message portrayed is God is seeking you right now more than you're seeking him. Even if you're running at him full bore, he is seeking you more. And he wants to know you more. And so, just say, hey, reveal yourself to me, and I promise you, if you keep your eyes open, he will.